here we are, folks, standing outside the historical Highland Lake Church, just outside of Meade, Colorado. Now, first of all, I'll point out, just across the lake over there is a oil field operation. It's quite loud, so chances are it's going to bleed over the audio a little bit. So I do apologize in advance for that. There's not a lot I could do about that. Like I said, standing outside the historical Highland Lake Church, just outside of Meade, Colorado. The church was used in the film, the 1990 film Die Hard 2, starring Bruce Willis. In the movie, the church was given a fictional name of Highland Community Church. And in that movie, it also, on the front door of the church, had a sign posted. And it said, "Future site of the Highland Lake Daycare Center." If you remember, part of the plot in the movie was the church was closing and making room for the daycare, I suppose. Ironically, this church was built in 1896, and roughly 10 years later, in 1906, it closed down. That's due in part to the nearby township of Meade being resurrected about the same time the church was built. So most of the members started going over to Meade. Anyhow, the church served as a base of operations for Colonel Stewart and his team, a makeshift air traffic control, if you will. If you remember in the show Die Hard 2, Stewart and his team hijacked the control tower for Dulles International Airport. Not physically, all the lines running to the airport ran across the church property. So they hacked those lines and tied into them and ran from there. Now, if the church doesn't look quite the same as it did in the movie, that's because they actually used the back door for the main entrance. And I'll give you a good reason why I think. Watch this truck go by there. The road is only about 20 or 30 yards from the edge of the street to the front steps of the church. So they used the back door, in my opinion, because it seems more advantageous, because it's just nothing but fields, open space. Anyways, what the filming studio did is they built a false front entrance and mounted it on the backside of the church. It's since been removed, but that's why it looks different. Now, I'm not entirely sure how much of the scene was filmed here, but they also did the snowmobile scene. If you notice, I mean, it's just tons of open space here. And keep in mind, this movie is, it was 1990. Here it is, 28 years old. So, a lot of those homes there, that's new construction back there. Those are new homes. So, they probably even had even more fields during the making of the show. I'm not entirely sure how much of the snowmobile scene they shot here, but they did shoot some here in Highland Lake, and quite possibly could have been done in that whole entire field. It's kind of challenging to track down all the filming locations, because if you remember in the show, it was filmed in December, right around Christmas. It's snowing. There's a blizzard taking over causing havoc with air traffic and so on. So they had to film the show in snow as much as possible. I remember watching an interview with John Amos. I'm not entirely sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but he played Sergeant Grant in Die Hard 2. And they were doing an interview with him about the making of Die Hard 2. And in that interview, he talked about how there was this snow drought in the country, where places who normally get snow hadn't got snow yet. So he was effectively sitting at home by the phone and just waiting for them to call him up and say, "Hey, John, we got snow, let's film." I mean, basically, that's not his exact words, but that's basically it. But it wasn't a bad deal because he was getting paid every day, so it was a good deal. Hey people, today I'm standing outside of Dulles International Airport. Alright, if you haven't figured it out yet, we're not in, it's not Dulles. I'm in Denver, Colorado. What you see here is what's left over of Colorado's old Stapleton Airport. The Stapleton Airport was the filming location, or one of the many filming locations of the movie Die Hard 2. Starring Bruce Willis. In the movie, the airport was given the name Dulles International Airport.
This is Dulles approach to all aircraft holding at Potomac Vortex. We are experiencing some technical problems here. The weather conditions, which have been deteriorating all day, have now been complicated by an unforeseen human factor.
And Colonel Stewart and his team hijacked the control tower and remote operated from their little church location. If you remember in the movie, the lines ran under the church property. They dug them up and tied into them. Colorado closed the Stapleton Airport back in 1995 in favor of a larger airport, DIA, kind of a little further down the road there. Okay, it's in the middle of nowhere. So the control tower is basically all that's left of this, the original Stapleton Airport, as you see here. The everything else, the neighborhoods, the runways, everything's been turned into neighborhoods. The control tower has been turned into like a social kind of club atmosphere for families. I believe it's called Punch Bowl Social. I believe they got a bowling alley in there. Go in there, eat food, and bowl. So now this only recently opened. I believe in just the last several months or so. Now, you know, like with most movies, not everything is filmed. Sorry, I can't talk. In one location. The only shots I can say for sure that was filmed externally here at Stapleton Airport is the scene with McCain tries to wave the plane off with torches. You remember Colonel Stewart was, you know, kind of ticked off that they had tried to set up their new little antenna array, and so had a gunfight. Stewart lost one of his members, got upset, and set the ground.
Guys, you're only at 800 feet.
On the radar, minus 200 feet, crashed the plane. Well, McCain jumped out the window with some, you know, sticks and towels and created torches to try to leave them off. That scene was filmed here. Major Grant's helicopter, you know, that's the second antagonist, I guess you would call it, with John Almos, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name, as Major Grant. His helicopter landing and the crash scene that I just talked about, that was filmed here. Now, as mentioned earlier, the old airport has been turned into neighborhoods, with the last homes just being constructed here recently. So now, in that show, before I wrap this up, I want to show you this. No car's coming. See the little drainage ditch here? And there is the control tower. But that was added. In what I'm referring to, in the movie, there's a scene where Bruce Willis crawls out of a storm drain in the middle of the runway trying to get to Esperanza, or whatever his name, the drug dealer's plane. So, and he almost gets hit because he's trying to lift up this huge, you know, drainage, you know, lid there in the middle of the runway. Well, you know, in the U.S. we don't really have those in the middle of the runway, so
Little theatrics added there. Alright, so anyhow, I just wanted to give you a behind the scenes tour of Die Hard 2 and show you some of what's happened in the last 20 or so years since Die Hard 2 and this airport being closed. I mean, there's just rows and rows and rows of it looks like my finger's pointing up, but I got these fingerless gloves. But there's rows of apartments. Back over here, tons of houses and stuff. I'm trying to keep an eye on these geese. I don't know if that'll make out, but they can get kind of terrifying. They just swarms of those things, and I don't have an umbrella. Alright, so I'm going to wrap this up. Hope you all enjoyed it. Check out my other videos. In the meantime, everybody have a great time. Probably putting this out just before Christmas, so everybody be safe. Have a great holiday, and I'll talk with y'all later. Thanks.